So we're talking today with Jeremy Bender of Jenison, Michigan, and the interviewer is James Smither of the Grand Valley State University Veterans History Project. Okay, Jeremy, can you start us off with some background? To begin with, where and when were you born?
I was born October 30th, 1978, Benton Harbon, Michigan, at the Lakeland Hospital now, but back then it was Mercy Memorial.
Okay, now did you grow up in Benton Harbor?
Yes, I did until the 89, fourth grade. Moved to Bridgman, and then grew up there.
Okay, and did you go to high school there?
Yes, I did. Yep.
Okay. All right, and what did your family do for a living when you were growing up?
My father worked in a die-cast shop, mostly a local die-cast shop, and my mother is a dental hygienist assistant, so she was pretty much working at the local dentistries, you know, so that's what they did.
Okay,
Yeah.
so kind of a conventional middle-class existence on that level.
Pretty
All right.
much, yeah.
What did you do when you finished high school?
Well, when I finished high school, I had a scholarship actually in acting from Lake Michigan Community College, and I went there for a year. To be honest with you, I ended up not going to as many of the classes that I should have been that year. I don't know if it was just burned out from all the schooling in the years before and wanting to work. I don't know. The money was good, you know. I was young, so. But yeah, I made it through the year with not a great grade point average, that's for sure. And then after that, I just said, I'm going to just go to work.
Okay, and what kind of work were you doing?
Oh, well, geez. I worked as a installer of office furniture for a while, for the longest time. And then I went and moved to Holland, worked at Johnson Controls, which back then was a great place to work, you know. And after that, I started working as an electrician and liked the trade, learned the trade pretty well. So that was pretty good. And after that, joined the Marine Corps.
Now, what were you doing when 9/11 happened?
9/11, that's when I was an electrician. We were going out to rough in a house. And we were just about to leave. It was like, I don't know, at 8 o'clock or something. You know, I can't remember the exact time, but something was already happening where the first plane had hit. And we started watching. We're like, where is this, you know? And we find out it's the World Trade Tower, you know. We're like, wow, this is big news, you know. So we're like, well, hold on, you know, have a couple more cups of coffee and just watch this thing. And all of a sudden we seen the second plane come in. And I mean, you're watching TV, and it's like you're watching a movie. You can't, it's hard for your mind to fathom that this is reality. This is actually happening, you know. This isn't a movie. This is real, you know. And like, that was definitely right away. You could tell, you know, right away you knew something was up with just the angle trajectory. I mean, just going right for the building. I mean, it's obvious. So, you know, right then and there, you're like, what's going on, you know? So, I mean, we went to work that day, but we just like really didn't work. You know what I mean? We just kept trying to just soak into what had really just happened. You know, it's like, this is big. This is huge, you know? And yeah, that's where I was that day when that happened.
All right. And then over the next few days and so forth, things get sorted out. They figure out who did it and this kind of stuff. Were you thinking at that point about the possibility of enlisting, or did you?
Yeah, I did. I really did. I was bitter. I was angry. You know, I was upset about that. You know, I mean, you're talking about 5,000 innocent people, had nothing to do with anything. You know, I was, you know, I'm a patriot. You know, it made me mad. So, yeah, I was angry about it. You know, so. But I was still doing the electrical thing, and I liked that, and I was kind of, you know, at that time I was 22, I think 22 or 23, so the whole thought of going into the military at the time, being, you know, getting yelled at and told you're a dirtbag and all that stuff, you know, that really didn't resonate with me very well, so I didn't pursue it. I just stuck with doing the electrical thing. But I was at that point more patriotic, from there.
All right. And then at that point, did you follow the news pretty carefully over the next year as we went into Afghanistan, but then there was also the Bush administration kind of pushing the idea of going into Iraq with a lot of stuff that didn't exactly pan out. But, but basically at the time, we really didn't know what was going on over there, and you're hearing about that. So are you then still thinking about maybe going and joining now?
As I watched it, I really wasn't thinking about the motives, because I knew that, what was going on over there underneath Saddam Hussein was not right, and I believed that no human being should be exposed to that kind of treatment, So I really didn't really think about what they were thinking in the house and all that stuff, or what their motives were, All I knew is that there were young men dying, and that's what I was watching. I kept seeing the numbers of the young guys, and it's just like, to me, I thought, all this time, through high school, sports, and everything, everybody was telling me you're a leader, and here I am still, young and kind of in my prime, 23, 24. I'm thinking to myself, maybe I should use those leadership skills, and maybe I can help save a couple of these young guys' lives. I mean, that's where I started to transition to that thought of actually really doing that, and it just kept building.
All right. Now, when you finally made the decision to go ahead and enlist, had the actual invasion of Iraq started yet? Had that happened?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so when did you enlist?
I enlisted, it was, I think, the end of May, around Memorial Weekend. My buddy had a wedding, and I just, that day, went and saw the recruiter and said, I'm signing up, So 2 weeks later, June 17th, 2003, I was on my way to MCRD in San Diego.
All right, that's the Marine Recruiting Depot. All right.
Yep.
Okay. Now, what kind of reception do you get when you? First of all, I guess when you signed up, were you asked or given a chance to kind of pick what area to go into, or anything else like that, or was that just?
Well, let me tell you, my grandfather, was a Korean War veteran. He's since passed. He had some insight. He was a military police officer, and he said, trust me, he goes, those parties that they're having, those aren't parties you want to be any part of. And he said, whatever you do, don't go infantry. And I told him, I was like, well, that's what I signed up for. I signed up for 03. He goes, why'd you do that? And I was like, that's where the action is, And he said, well, so what, you're 03, you're grunt? And I was like, nope. It's like, I'm 03 open. He goes, oh, okay. That's not too bad. You don't have to be a grunt then, So, and that's the idea that I had in mind was to going into possibly like demolitions, because I had the electrical background, so I knew some of that already, part of the job stuff, so.
So you go 03 open, basically they can assign you to different kinds of specializations?
Yep, all in the 03 field, whether you'd be a grunt, you'd be a machine gunner, you'd be a mortarman, like my brother-in-law, he's a mortarman, and then you could be like a demolitions, or you could maybe even be a sniper, you never know. I've heard of people going straight out of boot camp doing that.
But demolitions is put into infantry rather than combat engineering or some other
Yeah, I know. It's different with the combat engineers, like EOD, explosive ordnance disposal. You're higher rank guys right there. They're doing that, so it's your senior guys right there. You're not getting some newbie out there.
All right. Now, when you get out to San Diego and the recruiting depot, what kind of reception do you get?
Whew, man. They're on you quick, fast, and in a hurry. Yep, they make their presence known right away. And it's funny because, the bus ride from the airport to the depot, they make you put your head down. And you can't see out of the window, the portholes, like windows, portholes, So you can't see out of those, and it's funny because the whole time you're just like sitting there like, are these guys for real? Are these guys for real? And then you put your head up to test them, and then you find out, yep, they're for real. Yeah, yep.
So some traditions stick.
Oh yeah, some traditions definitely stick. That's for sure.
Now, do they still employ a lot of colorful language?
Jeez. That's what I was, this interview is probably going to have to be edited because sometimes I go back to that mindset. And talking about powerful language, it's like the vocabulary sometimes in boot camp is maybe 14 words.
And a lot of them start with F.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
Okay. Now, once you actually get there, you get off the bus, then what's the sequence of events those first couple days?
You have the yellow. First of all, you got the yellow footprints. You got to step in those. Of course, they hit that on you. And then, well, with me, I don't know. I guess it's different for whatever platoon you're falling into and what time you get there because because I got into platoon 1006. We were in Charlie Company, and that was who we were with. And we were probably, I think, 4 or 5 days in what they call receiving. So in receiving, you're just sitting there floating around, going out running, exercising, that's for sure, getting yelled at, getting barked at, but nothing too bad yet. They don't have somebody on you 24/7 yet. You're still taking showers, at least time, you still get some hot water here and there. But then it's like when you get dropped into the, your actual platoon with your actual drill instructor and your senior drill instructor, that's when the stuff hits the fan.
Now, do they give you aptitude tests or things when you first get
Yes,
there?
Or
before you
you
went,
do
or?
that. You do that in Lansing.
Okay.
Yeah, you do that like an ASVAB. Yep. You do that when you're doing all that stuff in Lansing or wherever it is you go to swear in, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. And do they do the physical there too? Is that, or where is that done?
That's done before you get in. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It's all done before you get in. Yep.
And with the physical, how rigorous were they being?
They make you duck walk in this room. I mean, you're all sitting there in your skibbies, just a bunch of guys. You don't even know anybody, You're just sitting in there looking around, just, hey, how you doing, Just sitting there. All right, I guess we're all going to, do a little dance here. And you walk your line, and there's about there were 3 doctors, I think, or just 3 people that were in there working. And they were watching, seeing your ankle structure, how you walked. I mean, they check you out, Well, I mean, boot camp was, like I say, it was no joke. If you busted your ankle and you went to like sick call or whatever and your stuff was messed up and you came back, you were in that top bunk, jump down. Let's see how well that ankle is. Because they don't want, at least in the Marine Corps, we don't want the weak, That's it. They don't want the weak body. They just done with them.
So they were weeding people out at that point?
Basically, yeah. I mean, yeah, they push you to the limit. They want to see who can withstand the most rigorous type of activity, because that's what you get into,
Okay. Now, how long is the boot camp at this point?
Boot camp is 13 weeks.
It's 13 weeks. Okay.
13 weeks. Yep. You have 3 different phases. They call them. Your first, second, and third phase. And your first phase is all, the mind game where they're just dogging you and running you and beating you up, and then the second phase is all workout, That's where you're doing your 3 days out and for 72 consecutive hours doing the crucible, and you got to climb that huge mountain. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
So you're kind of out of it. Let's do this a little bit more specific. Okay, you've got your first phase. You're learning discipline.
Yeah, basically. Yep. You're learning to snap to and get ready and hop. I mean, you wake up in the morning and you got what they call ghost turds on the deck, on the floor. And this is stuff that comes off of the bedding, from the blankets that they have, the military blankets. So it's just little floaties around there, you know. So you got to hop on like a duck, you know, hop around with one hand behind your back, and you got your brush and you're brushing you, and he goes, scrub, 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 aye sir, scrub, aye sir, and you're doing all this stuff, you know. I mean, and some of these, I mean, I swear, these drill instructors, they have to like be, I think they have to take like comedian classes or watch Seinfeld or something crazy or like that, because they got some funny jokes when they're in there too. They're like, you know, I can tell you one time. Okay, we're out in this pit, okay, and we're all getting sweaty and wet. And this is the second phase, but this is just an example. This is the one that sticks out the most. And everybody's working out, busting it, and then they find the ones that are being lazy, you know, and they bring them out in front of everybody. And they have 3 of them. And he goes, the first one, he goes, when I point, he goes, you say it's getting hot in here. And he goes to the second one, he goes, and then when I point to you, you say, now take off all your clothes. And then he goes to the other one, he goes, and then when I point to you, you go, hoot, hoot. So, I mean, he's like, it's getting hot in here, so take off all your clothes, hoot, hoot. And I mean, they're making him like sing this song, you know. And where these guys just drum this stuff up, it's like they must sit back and like all talk about what funny thing can we do to these guys, you know. Yeah, and that's what got me. I remember one time in the first phase, this drill instructor, he was just on this kid. And I can't remember the kid for the life of me, but he was just a little kid too. I mean, he was 100 pounds, soaking wet, small. And I was just like, oh God, you're in for a world of hurt. And he had it in for him. And he said something so funny about him. And I just kind of like, one of those, oh, who did that? You know, he heard it. Pulled me out to the middle of the floor. He's having them, like, let's say these are the foot lockers, you know, and they're tricep dips. He's like, when I say down, you point at him, go ha ha, and then he says up, down, and I go ha ha. I had to point to every single recruit and point at them and go ha ha, all around the thing. He's like, you want to be Private Joker, huh? You know. But I mean, the stuff they do is just like, they teach you to, you know, to keep your bearing, you know, not break anything, you know. You got to stand at attention.
Yeah. Now, what proportion of the guys who started out in your platoon finished?
Oh, wow. Well, we started off like with close to 100. And then we dropped down to like 72. And then we picked up another 20 in second phase, because these were guys getting recycled. Yep. So that's where I saw a lot of them jumping out of the beds, you know. Oh, there goes it. Oh, he's back. Okay. But yeah, out of that 20, probably another 15 of those didn't make it. We only ended up graduating, I think, 84, but I think in total we lost probably like 50 some. Yeah, it was amazing.
So it's serious business.
Yeah.
All right. Now, did the little guy who was getting picked on make it through? Can you remember?
You know what? I don't think he did. I really don't think he did. Yeah.
All right. So you get the discipline phase, and it's sort of the. Do you get weapons training worked in at certain points, or does that come in the last phase?
Yep, that's in the second phase.
Okay.
That's where you're on the rifle range and doing all your snapping in and getting your badge, whether you're marksman, expert, or, you know, pizza box. So a lot of it is just for the rifle, though. It's nothing with grenades or anything like that. It's just learning how to use the M16. That's all it is. Yeah, in boot camp.
All right.
So,
yeah, and so the third phase then is going to be what?
Third phase is basically trophy time and graduate, because that's when you do your big drill on the parade deck when you're doing your march, and the drill instructor's out there, you know, looking all good with his sword and everything, and then he messes up, and we go back to the barracks and he beats the crap out of you for making him look bad. It all rolls downhill, you know. It's like you don't want to be that low guy on the totem pole, because.
Now, do the platoons or companies compete with each other in the drill demonstrations?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I remember one time they had us lined up in the streets, you know, on the depot, you know, and we're literally in the streets facing each other, each platoon, and we're doing our snapping, our popping with our rifles and everything, you know. and we're seeing which ones are better, which ones are louder, which sharper, crisper. And wasn't our senior, but our highest green belt, and he was bad, but he liked drill. He was out there with us, and we were rocking it too. And he gave us this one time. He's like, he told you, he's like, if I tell you whoo hoo like that, he goes, do this and go like that. So seriously, we're all standing there just locked, and we're just facing each other. After we just finish off him, he goes hoo hoo, and we go all as a unit. I mean, all 80 some of us just all in the street just like that. And they were like, no, you did not. Their drill instructors are getting in our faces and coming at us, don't you ever put your tongue out to me. And just
Right. And the guy who initiated this, you're using terms like your senior and green belt and so forth. Are these people who were in your own company who are leading, or are they the instructors?
They were the instructors,
okay.
Yep. You had the senior drill instructor. He was like the mother hen, you know, acted like he was all caring and nurturing, and then he had his dogs he'd unleash on you, and those were the green belts.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got that whole thing. Now, the guys who were in your platoon, were they mostly younger than you?
Yeah. Yep. Most of them were all 18. Yep. There was only, in my boot camp, there was one guy older than me, and that was Knox. And he was an older guy. He was like 27 or something, you know, so that was the only one that I knew. Everybody else, 18. Yep.
Do you think it helped you to be a little bit older?
Oh, yeah, immensely. I knew the mind games that they were going to play ahead of time. They break you down, they beat you up. It's all just basically having an intense physical fitness trainer, you know, something like the Biggest Loser or whatever. Yeah. You know? So, yeah, that's all it was. But these 18-year-old kids, you know, that didn't seep into their heads, you know. You know, a lot of them were just break down and just get trounced on even more.
Right. Now, once you've survived your 13 weeks and you have your graduation ceremony and so forth, what do they do with you at that point?
They say, see you later. Yep. Good luck. Yep. And then you're got leave for however many days, and you're off to the next training, which was School of Infantry.
All right. Now, is that Camp Pendleton or somewhere else?
Well, I guess it could be different for wherever your duty station is, but it is at Camp Pendleton for me. That's where I went, you know.
All right. And then what did this training consist of then?
This was basically where you got your hands on with the big weapons, you know, the 50 caliber machine gun, the Mach Deuce, the 40, the M40, the 240, the 240 Golf.
And what are those things?
Those are machine guns,
Okay.
fully automatic machine guns. They got a really high cyclic rate, you know, something like 1,000 rounds in a minute or two, you know. Then you got the 50 caliber machine gun that really puts holes through buildings with some of the rounds, even explodes vehicles with some of the rounds. The M40, that is a automatic grenade launcher that's mounted on top of the vehicle, and it's a pretty nice weapon. Also get to fire the rocket, you know, the AT-4. That was something else. Yeah. I missed the second day, though, of that because I had a brown recluse spider bite.
Ouch.
Yeah. And like my calf swelled up to like the size of a football. You know, and I'm not, at this time, I'm only like 150 pounds, you know. Now I've put on a little bit of weight since then, but, you know, then I was like maybe 155, 160 pounds, and my calf was like out to here. It was just crazy. And I got put on bed rest, and we had like a 5-mile hike, a 10-mile, a 15-mile, and a 20-mile hike that you had to do. Well, for the 15-mile hike, I had to sit out because this was just, they told me, nope, you're sitting out, you're going to help out doing this and this, whatever, but you're not doing it. So it came to the 20-mile hike, and it was still bad. And they were like, well, forget it. We're going to pass you anyway because you know, you've been doing everything good. You're a stellar Marine. Don't worry about it. And the one guy even told me, he goes, you got plenty of time to do some hiking. Just wait till you get to your unit. So I told him, I said, no, I said, "No, I'm not going to graduate knowing that I didn't do the big one with my guys, you know. So I did it, and boy, did I pay. Like I say, I got back, and there that leg was again, all fully just swollen. And they weren't too nice to you in the medical there when you were doing that, because the lady, she just started squeezing and took like a swizzle stick with gauze like this long, maybe about that wide, and just started shoving it into my calf. I'm like, what are you doing, you know? And she's like, what? Nobody numb this for you? I'm like, nobody's seen me but you. What are you doing? You know? So I'm like, can you like do something like Novocaine or something, you know? And she's like, no, we can't do that, not for this, you know. She's like, you just need to take some pain medicine after this. I'm like, what? I'm like, man, I'm like, this is killing me. She's like, oh, you're a Marine, you're supposed to be tough. I'm like, you're gonna find out how tough I am.
Was she a Marine herself or a civilian
No,
employee?
she was Navy.
Oh, Navy, okay, because a lot of the medical people are Navy.
Yep, a lot of them were Navy. Yep. That's all my docs were Navy. Yep. Yeah.
All right. But that does go away eventually?
Yeah, it eventually went away. I mean, I got a huge scar. I show my veterans sometimes. This. I mean, look at that. Right there. They could have stuck a golf ball in that thing, and you know.
All right. So you're doing that. So basically, at this point, you're figuring on just being regular combat infantry, or are you getting anything more specialized along with this?
Well, during the School of Infantry, you go in, and if you're 03, they try to figure out where to put you when you're in there, what you would be best suited for, and they take into account your test scores and everything like that you did before you got into the Marine Corps, and they just place you, I think, also too where they need you as far as numbers go. You know, really, I think it's a lot of times. I got the luck of the draw, like I say. I wanted to be a demolitions expert, and I got it. And I remember I had the staff sergeant. He so wanted me to be a grunt. He was like, "You're going to be the best grunt ever. You're going to be my best grunt," you know. And I kept telling him too. And I was like, you know, because they were more laid back. They're not drill instructors, you know. So I kept telling him, I go, "Staff sergeant," I go, I don't want to be a grunt. I want to be the guy that blows stuff up, you know. I want to play with the big stuff, you know. And he goes, "Oh, what a waste of talent," you know, like that, you know. So when the day comes and he's giving us all of our MOSs, now this is, oh God, he's giving us all of our MOSs, and he comes to me and he looks at me, he goes, "Bender, 51, you got your wish. I hope you don't get killed." I mean, it's just so serious, you know, but you know, he really wanted me to be a grunt, and he was a really cool guy. I learned a lot from him when I was in there. Like I say, it's more loose. They want you to learn this stuff, you know, so they're really, you know, as far as listening to you and not playing all the garrison games, they were kind of putting that on the back burner and letting you learn a little bit and relax and absorb this instead of worrying about when the heck you got to get in the rack and what you got to clean and do and all that, you know. So
now, was part of this training really geared for Iraq? Was there stuff that would not have been there otherwise?
I believe so. I believe so, because you know, my main weapon, you know, you look at it, was the javelin. Okay. I basically never got a chance to fire the weapon, never even saw a round for the weapon, and that was my weapon. That's the one I'm supposed to use, you know. And here I hardly got any training except for the CLU, which is the command launch unit for the javelin. And through that, I don't know if you've ever heard of what the CLU is. It's a little unit. When you stick your head in there, it like kind of opens up into a screen, and then you can see out to up to 2,000 meters. Okay, and you can have thermal on there, night vision, all that good stuff, you know. And a lot of that is for the thermal is because with tanks they have their exhaust in different spots and positions. That way you know the difference between a friendly and foe. But yeah, I learned a lot about the CLU, but that was geared so I could use it to see. I was never even when it came time to how do you fire doing a top attack, because the missile fires in a direct and a top attack for the turret attack on a tank, but there's no tanks in Iraq anyway, so we weren't really worried about that, So I knew, why they weren't spending a whole lot of time on that. But like I say, we got geared with the 50 cal, the 240, the 240 Golf, the M40, the grenade launchers. So those are the weapons they hit.
Now, did you then get any additional training now that you got into this particular assignment, or are you just assigned to a unit and sent off?
No. After the School of Infantry, I go to my regular unit.
Okay.
And that's when I went with 2nd Battalion, 7th Marines.
All right.
With them, I did all my training. That's the guys I went to Iraq with. A lot of the guys that were in the School of Infantry I didn't even see anymore. Some I did, But yeah, our first sergeant, Galecko, big guy, okay, comes off the bus. He goes, "Gentlemen, welcome to 2-7. You're going to Iraq in 6 months." It was less than that, but yeah, he was a really big guy. Yeah, and that was one thing I remember, even being out in California, being from Michigan, I could take that heat towards near the lake, so I was hoping I would get like Pendleton or maybe even get Hawaii, And they told me too, they're like, "Yeah, you get your palm trees." I was like, "Really?" "Yeah, you're going to 29 Palms." I was like, "Oh, I've been by there. It was 120 that day. Yeah, I don't really want to go there."
So that's out in the desert then?
Yep. And that's where we did a lot of good training, And that's, for the most part, where they sent a lot of units before they go to Iraq is 29 Palms, because it's basically what you see when you get over into Iraq and Afghanistan or anywhere in the Middle East.
Yeah, I mean, Iraq in particular is sort of notorious for all the dust and so forth. Did you have to deal with that at 29 Palms, or was that not as bad?
You know what? You did. In 29 Palms, it was bad. It was really bad. I remember, oh my gosh, you have a room inspection in the barracks there, and you would have sand all over your floors that you'd have to sweep out before they came through, because, like I say, sand was everywhere, and you'd have it in your ear and all everywhere you don't want it, so but that's what you had, and you're out there running and playing in it. That's all you had.
What do you do to keep the weapons clean and that stuff?
Oh my gosh. Clean weapons. That's all you do, is clean weapons. You ask any Marine, what do you do? Clean a weapon most of my time in the Marine Corps. Yep, a lot of cleaning, especially, sometimes, you don't really need to, but if you wanted to put like a little sock or something over the muzzle, try to keep the dirt and whatever out of there, that'd help out a little bit. But, you pretty much, you're going to clean the weapon anyway, and it was going to be clean and ready to go when you next needed it. So.
Right. All right. So you're out there. So how long then are you at 29 Palms?
I was at 29 Palms. I got there Thanksgiving weekend.
So 2003, so end of the year.
No, yep, 2003, yep. Yeah, and then I left February, in the beginning of February. It was February 3rd, for Iraq.
Okay.
So I was only there for
a couple months.
Yep, that was it.
Now, over the course of the time that you were in the different phases of training after you joined, how much information were you getting about what was happening in Iraq or what was happening with the Marines in Iraq?
Oh, quite a bit. Yeah, we did a lot of planning. Yeah, there's a lot of planning in the process. Look at maps, do languages, we do prac app. I mean, when we weren't training, we were sitting down learning. I mean, that's the Marine Corps, the way. I mean, seriously, it's all about knowledge and power. I mean, that's what we were all about. And I can remember there was a bunch of times when guys were getting smacked and hit upside the head or in the gut or upside the back to get woken up because we were just beat, and you're trying to learn this stuff. And it's just, like I say, we were only there for a couple months training before we went over. So it was a lot of time that we spent out in the field nights where we just wouldn't even sleep, and that's preparing you. I mean, by that time anyway, that's all the School of Infantry was too, you know. They would keep you up till 2, 3 in the morning studying your stuff, and then 05 come around and boom, you're out there for chow, you know. So you, by at this point in time, learned how to get around without sleeping, you know. But yeah.
All right. Now, in your battalion, let's see, you've got probably a cadre of some more experienced officers and NCOs and so forth. Do you have people in there who had been in the first Gulf War, things like that, or you not really know their backgrounds?
With my unit, I had our sergeant, and he was part of the reason why we were who we were in that war, because it was the first time that 2-7 was going, okay? And nobody at that point had really had any wartime experience. My sergeant, however, had been in the Army before, and he was over somewhere, I think, in Central America and some other places where he got into some stuff. So he was pretty locked on, and he taught us some really good. He really took an interest in me too, and he was locked on, and that's part of the reason why we were what was called the Ronin Squad. It was one of the original squads to be developed for the security element for a battalion commander.
All right. Talk about that a little bit. Your role, now you're in 2nd Battalion, 7th Marine Regiment, sort of regular unit, but then within that, which company were you in?
I was in weapons company.
All right.
Yeah. Weapons company is consisted of your machine gunners, the guys that are shooting the 50 cal and the 240 Golf and all that good stuff, and M40. And then you have your mortarmen that's shooting the mortar rounds, you know, the 40s, the tube strokers, the 88s, whatever you want to call them. My brother-in-law, he was one, so I got to make sure I put that in there. And then you have the demolitions expert, which that's what my MOS was, and then you also have the sniper. So the sniper was also a part of our unit as well.
Now, as a demolitions expert, what materials or weapons are you actually working with?
Well, in Iraq, or just any time?
You said you were supposed to have the Javelin missile, but didn't ever see much of it.
Yeah, that was in School of Infantry.
And that's an anti-tank missile?
Yeah. Okay. So once I got to my unit, never even talked about that thing.
So then what else do you have?
Well, as far as
what you would be using if you're doing demolition?
Well, we had grenades. We didn't have any C4. We basically, grenades, smoke bombs, flares. That was about it. We really didn't roll with anything other than an AT-4. We did have a rocket launcher, and we had a tow missile with us, so that was another good thing to have. But for the most part, we didn't have anything because we weren't looking to do anything like that. We were more like a response unit. We weren't going to do anything. We were going to see what's going on because we were with the battalion commander all the time, and that's what our deal was.
All right. So in effect, you're kind of just attached to the commander, and you're his protection or security.
Pretty much. Yep. That's what we were. We were basically put together to be the security element for him. We had 2 snipers that were attached with us, and then we had 2 comms guys attached with us as well. And then the rest of us were the weapons unit that were consistent of me and my guys from 2-7. Yep.
All right. So about how many of you at all in this unit?
There was 20. Let's see. Yeah, there was 20 of us.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And what sort of character was the battalion commander?
He was hard-nosed. He was serious. He was definitely a guy that was all about getting the business done. He kept us up quite a bit, and we put some miles on them Humvees, that's for sure. There was times where it was like, where's the next camp? Because we're down to the last fuel can, and where the heck are we? Because you're looking around, it's just like desert.
Right. All right. So you get the call. How did they get you over to Iraq?
Oh, we went on Delta, flew Delta double-decker. It was pretty nice, plush, especially for the senior guys. They had it nice. I mean, they had leg room and spread out. Yeah, you know what I mean? They're like laying down, sleeping and whatever, you know. I'm going back over here in regular whatever. But it was good sized plane, you know. You had the 3 seats in the middle and 3 on the outside, you know, and then you had a huge flat screen TV. We were watching, gosh, was it 10 Ways to Lose a Guy or something like that, 8 times on the flight because it's such a long flight, you know. Yeah, we stopped in Prague. Prague was pretty neat, although I didn't really like the whole thing because we couldn't debark the plane with our rifles. We had to leave them on the plane. So I was like, well, I don't kind of really like that idea, you know, and leaving all those rifles and just 2 people to stand watch over them. It's like, I don't like those numbers, you know. But I was like, hey, they know better than I do, whatever, you know. So go into the little shop there in there over there, and they had cigarettes that were like an actual cigarette pack, but it was a carton. And I looked at that and I was like, wow, this is definitely different. And vodka everywhere, and chocolate, and cigarettes, and vodka, and chocolate, and that was it. Yep.
But did you actually get to walk around, see the city, or did you just hang out in the airport?
No, we just stayed at that part of the airport.
Okay.
Looked out the window, and that was what I saw of Prague.
All right.
Yeah, I didn't do any touristy stuff, you know.
Okay. All right. Then you get back on again. Where next?
Then that's Kuwait, and we roll into Kuwait. Boy, it was late. I'm a poet, and I don't even know it. Yeah, we 03. We get off the little commercial bus that you're on, and then it all starts from there. Unloading, getting to your vehicles, and getting everything set up in your little Quonset huts that have basically no air in them whatsoever. And you're getting your weapons and everything all in your place, and you're getting all your gear ready, and then you're getting set up for the big move. Yep, that's basically we sat in Kuwait for about a week or 2.
Okay, so there is still that hurry up and wait element to being in the
Oh
military.
yeah, you got to wait for the rest of everything to catch up with you. You know, that's like you say. We probably went 3 days before we had our vehicles, and then we could start training with doing our driving, what we were going to do in certain calls. If we called contact left and we wanted to run an actual defensive maneuver and all that stuff, you know, that's basically what you're doing in Kuwait. I think that's why they even keep you there, is to get a little bit more of a refresher and a training and get used to the terrain and see what you're going to see out there, you know, because it's different.
Yeah.
Like I say, when it wasn't when I got in Kuwait, but when I stepped out of the Humvee in Iraq, and I just like stood there, it was like a feeling I can't even describe. Like I just felt like I was like in a godforsaken place, like it like he didn't even exist, you know. And I believe in God, and you know, and that's one of the reasons I believe I'm still here today is because of God, you know. And like I say, I just felt like my soul was ripped out from me, and it was like, whoa, I just had that vibe, like this is not a good place to be, you know. Yeah.
Now, where did you actually go in Iraq, or where did you go first?
Well, it was a 2-day trip, 14 hours each day, straight driving, and that's filling up Gatorade bottles as you're as you're driving. And when we roll straight into Al Asad Air Force Base.
And where is that in Iraq?
That's in the Al Anbar province, like in the western
area.
Yep,
Yeah,
the western area. Yeah, near the Euphrates, right there. That was really close to us. We hit a lot of the dams that were over there. But that's where I would basically call home for the next 3 months that I was there, was Al Asad Air Force Base. Yeah.
All right. And now, when you got up there, were you in trucks or Humvees or?
We were in a convoy.
Okay.
Our whole battalion went. So we were all in just one huge convoy. Yeah. So, like I say, after our 14-hour day, we'd pull over and we'd all be lined up, all one after another, and we'd just be sitting, waiting, and the next day we'd all roll out together. I never understood that because they wanted dispersion with the vehicles when we're driving, but then we all park really close to one another.
Well, that's the old practically circle the wagon thing. They're just in a line along the road together?
Yep.
But that probably is security, so you can keep
Oh,
track
yeah.
of everybody. Because being separate, that has more to do probably with mines or IEDs or snipers and not crashing into each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, did you have any incidents on the way up?
No, nothing whatsoever. I mean, it was just peaceful, calm. Saw some old guy chasing down some kids, trying to hit him with his cane. I mean, that was about the biggest thing we saw, And I mean, that's the thing over there. These kids, they pick on the older people. They throw stones at them, and oh yeah, it's something else, And you'll see an old guy, sometimes it'll just be sitting there, and a kid will be driving by and he'll swing at him, like, whoa, that kid must have done something to him, way in the past or something.
All right. Now, once you get up to this base, then what does your unit do?
Well, first night we roll out. We go out and check out the area. We probably got in, I want to say, about 2,100 hours. It was like 9. And then after we got everything off the vehicles, we mounted our weapons on the vehicles, blacked out everything, got all set up, got our gear ready, pulled our ammo, got all calm in there, got the battalion commander, got where our routes were, what we were going to be doing. We were already ready to step off at probably, 2,300.
Pretty quick, yeah.
Yeah, we were pretty quick, fast, and in a hurry. Yep, battalion commander wanted, first day, boots on ground, want to get out there and see what's going on, so we hit the next FOB, which is a forward operating base. Went and saw them, Echo Company, and then worked our way back to the nearest big city from where we were, which was Heat, H-I-T. It looks like it's hit, but it's pronounced Heat, which is kind of ironic for where you were, Heat,
Appropriate anyway.
Yeah.
All right. Now, what was the battalion's assignment? What was their function in that area at that time?
Well, a lot of it was vehicle checkpoints, getting out there, trying to win the hearts and minds of the people, helping out with security for, if schools are being built, passing out water sometimes even, passing out food sometimes even. A lot of it was just police work, really, except for like with us. We did all that mixed into the fact that the battalion commander went and saw everybody from the battalion, so he would have other units that were out there, like other companies, Echo Company and what have you, that would be posted somewhere far away, and we'd have to go and see how they're doing and make sure we weren't getting our butts in any trouble. So,
Okay. Now, was there trouble?
yeah, there was trouble.
What kinds of things were going on at that time?
Oh wow! Well, the first night we went out, blackout operation. I was a lead vehicle driver. No, actually, I take that back. At this point, I was still the rear vehicle driver. And I just remember we turned down this military road, and military service road, and turning down, and all of a sudden I got my NVGs on, and I see them just bright, and I hear a big boom behind us, So I'm like, okay, that was pretty far away, but what's going on, So we call out for a maneuver, and we take point at that time because it's behind us. So I'm like, oh God, this is for real. Okay, this is for real. So I'm the driver. I got to stay near the vehicle. I got to be always ready to move at any moment's notice. So I'm turning the vehicle around, and I get it into a position basically where my gunner is set, and he's got a good field of fire, and I get my guys out, and they're spread out, looking out already. And all of a sudden, I'm just about ready to step out and get my NVGs out to see what I can see outside of the vehicle, and I see my shadow in the road. And I'm like, somebody's got their headlights on me. This is not good, you know? So everybody has the order to stay blackout. So I don't know who this is behind me. I'm turning my gun around thinking we didn't see a car there or something, you know? I'm like, what's going on? It's battalion commander. It's his vehicle. He turns his lights on to go see who's trying to kill us, you know? I'm like, okay, if they didn't have our position before, they definitely got it now, you know? So I'm like a deer in the headlights. I'm not kidding you. I'm turned and I'm like, literally like these lights. I'm staring into them like, oh God, what do I do? I'm like totally exposed, you know? So I run to the side, get behind a bush, take cover, you know, as best as I can. But I'm like, oh God, I'm dead. I'm thinking I'm dead. Nothing happened. We go back, roll to where it was. They had set up an IED in a truck, and they blew the truck too late after we had already passed through because we were blacked out. They didn't see us, you know. So they were very late on that one, but like I say, it was pretty freaky. I mean, even going back to there, you're like, okay, where are they then, you know? What's going on, you know? Why are we sitting here? Let's go somewhere. Let's get out of here because we don't know where anybody's at. And they don't fight like that, you know. They don't come out and say, let's go at it, you know. They stay hidden, you know. So it's like, let's get out of here, you know. So we ended up scooting back, going to the police station and hit there because, like I say, this is the first night out. He wants to meet people, you know.
Right.
So he being the battalion commander. So we go into the police station. And that's when he meets the police colonel, who we eventually end up taken into custody later, and when my incident happened. But that's how our initial meeting of this guy went, was, you know, who knows, it could have been him, you know? Yeah.
All right. And so basically, do you get into a certain kind of pattern while you're there, just going back and forth to different spots, or are there changes in what goes on?
You always change. You don't ever try to do the same thing twice. You always do a different route, different time, do something different with the vehicle. You always change it up because they are very clever there. They are very smart. They are very aware, especially when there's only so many of them, or so many of us, that they have to keep track of, you know. There's not as many of us over there, you know, so we kind of stand out, you know. So we do a lot of things like that to make sure that the vehicle's descriptions change, because obviously with the battalion commander going around to these important people and meeting these dignitaries for them over there, you know, we're being looked at, you know. So we were making sure we had our I's dotted and our T's crossed and all that good stuff.
Now, are you going around in Humvees or something else?
Humvees.
Okay.
Yeah, always Humvees.
Well, what do you do to disguise a Humvee? I mean, a Humvee would look like, is it?
Well, like, okay, like sometimes not really disguise it, give it different markings.
Okay.
You know, like one day we could have number 12 on there, and then we change it up to 3 or 6 or whatever number it is, so they don't even know then by, you know, because there's certain vehicle markings they look at, because not every vehicle is the same, you know. So they kind of make that mental note. So when we change up the markings on the vehicles, you're other than if you're trying to hide from somebody in the sky, it'd be easy because they're the color of the sand, you know, or you're sitting on the side of a mountain. Those things are pretty tucked away when they're sitting up against a mountainside and you're looking there. They're pretty hidden.
Okay. All right. Now, in that time, are there firefights or sniper attacks or mortar attacks, or what's going on?
Yeah. We had a few times where we exchanged fire. And that first night, somebody said that they thought they heard 3 rounds go off. I don't know if that's what it were, if it was just repercussions or vibrations from the explosion. But they said there were 3 shots fired. But after that, we probably had 5 or 6 more incidences where we were out there and we had shots fired at us, and we couldn't see where their position was to return fire, and sometimes we would just return fire to take cover, you know, and get out of there because number one concern is keep the lieutenant commander alive. You know, that way we all stay alive. So that was what we did. Was when we had fire coming into us, our main objective was to get out of there, not to stay and fight. We would do what we could to suppress them, get out of there, and radio it in, call our position, and we were watched all the time because one time we radioed in for air support, and they were there. They had a Cobra right there waiting for us within minutes.
Right.
Yeah. So we were always had an eye in the sky over us.
Yeah. But if you run into something because of who you are and who you're with, it's usually going to be up to the line companies to deal with something if there was something serious out there?
Yep.
Now, were they getting into larger scale fights?
Yeah. Echo Company really was getting into some stuff. A couple of my guys that I went to boot camp and School of Infantry that were in Echo Company, when I'd see them, because we'd go see Echo Company a lot, and they were like, man, you know, like, so-and-so got killed. I'm like, what? I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, God, you know, and he's like, yeah, he's like, it was bad, you know. So.
Yeah, were they in a particularly dangerous spot, or just?
Yes, it was a very dangerous spot. In heat, it was very dangerous. There was, like I say, out of all those instances of the 6 or 7 instances we were fired at, heat was probably the majority of those instances, you know.
Because it's a town and can hide people and stuff?
Yep, and there's more basements and things of that nature. Because, like I say, once we really started to kick in some of these doors and looking around when they let us go, like when we let loose in Fallujah, that's when we really started finding all this stuff, you know. Because you pull up a board in the floor or a mat that they have on the floor, and next thing you know, there's a tunnel down in there, and next thing you know, it leads out to a farm, and in the farm, there's a little bunker out there, and there's all this ammunition and weapons and all this kind of stuff. Oh, it was, they're like I say, they're very clever. They're very clever people. You know, they're very intelligent.
Okay. Well, Fallujah was sort of a place where you had, at some point, a fairly large-scale, actual, almost street fight or whatever between the Marines and whoever was on the other side. Now, were you going in after that, or were you caught up?
We were going in during that.
During it, okay.
Yep. We were the Big Ripper Sweep. That's what we were a part of. And that's where more of the explosions stuff went off that we were involved in. There was one point we were going, and we didn't even know EOD was out there, explosive ordnance disposal. They were out there taking care of a mine, and we didn't even know. Nobody even radioed it into us, and we're driving through this area because it's hot, and all of a sudden there's a mine going off next to us. We're like, whoa, what's that? I'm like, we're taking incoming. Where's it coming from? You know, contact what? Contact what? You know, and they're like, we don't know. You know, all of a sudden we're getting over the brick. That was us. Like, what? Yeah. We sat outside of, where was it? I can't remember the name of the place, but it was just one of these towns that you come to. It's almost like Vegas, but it's like the miniature version of it, because it was like just like 6, 7 big buildings and a couple buildings around it, and that was it, you know. But it was all gated, which was really weird. But yeah, we had gotten intel that there was supposedly like 200 insurgents in this little area. And they've got RPGs and all this stuff, you know, rocket propelled grenades. So I'm looking at all these buildings, and they're tall buildings, don't mind you, you know. So I'm like, oh man, we're out here on the ground, and they've got all this open to see us. Like, what's going to stop them from getting us, you know? And then as the sun came up, I looked, and it was totally surrounded. The entire city was just like totally surrounded. And then you looked up, and there was like, I don't know, 8 fighter jets and so many helicopters. I was like, oh, we're good. Let's go. Yep. But when we went through there, nobody said anything. Everybody was nice. Nobody did anything. As soon as we leave and get 50 miles away the next day, something happened back there. You know? So...
Yeah, I mean, how much did you see as you're doing this of just the civilian population and the people in these towns?
I saw quite a few of them. The girls, the females, they stay away from you. Yep, and that's just so they can don't get beat up, or God, anything, it's horrible. But yeah, a lot of older men, a lot of boys, that's, but none of the younger adults or anything like that, or some teenagers. Some of them were all right, but for the most part, they kept away from you. Yeah. There was sometimes, you'd be like, "Where's Alibaba?" and all that stuff, and they'd be like, "Oh, Mujahideen, good, yeah," and like, "Oh, okay." Yep. Like, okay, we see you. Yeah, but whenever it was the ones that you'd caught by surprise, like if you'd go around tight corners, but you would think they were just like saw a ghost. They stop in their tracks real quick and then they just go back to normal. But that's that first moment when you roll by, they're like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. Did you have any sense of what they thought of you other than just being a little bit afraid?
Yeah, I think they sensed that I wanted to do good for them, A lot of times I'd go out, when I would be out there with the kids, especially with the kids, I'd try to talk to them, and if I had something I could give them, I'd give them something, I wasn't trying to be one of those, mean people over there, just mean-spirited and get away from me, I wanted to show them, kindness as well, so, and what we were trying to do for them, that they wouldn't have to be treated like that, So, yeah, I think that they knew that I respected them and wanted better for them.
All right. And did you have any Iraqis who were assigned to you in one capacity or another with your unit? Or
No. Well, we had a translator.
Yeah,
we had our translator, and he was a really good guy. But a lot of these translators, I think they get them that have somehow been wronged in the past, because sometimes they didn't really care if you did anything to them or not. They would be like, "I don't care about any of these people," So I guess maybe that's probably the person you want, because they're going to tell you the truth, but then sometimes they might lie and get the person in worse shape. So there was a couple of times that our interpreter we were told, you can't do anything out of the norm and keep them from their culture. You have to accept it, and I just wasn't for the mistreatment of women, especially elderly women. And the one time I saw this guy, and he's just riding on this donkey, and he's behind this elderly woman, and they're in a field, and she's got a bag over her shoulder, and he's riding behind her, not whipping her or nothing, but just riding behind her on a donkey. And I'm thinking to myself, I would love nothing more to go over there and just knock you off of that donkey, but because I'm not permitted to, those were some of the things you had to deal with. And sometimes we made sure that the blind eye was turned or something, and we made sure that they knew that kind of action wasn't going to be tolerated anymore. So,
All right. Now, while you're there and so forth, do you have any chance to do to do things like communicate with home at all, or tell them you're okay, or that sort of stuff? You're not sitting around on a base with email.
Yeah, no. Matter of fact, I got in trouble for that. I'm sitting there, and this is probably a month into it, and I'm eating chow in the morning. First hot breakfast I probably had in probably about 10 days. And what was he? It was our butter bar. I think it was our butter bar. He is a second lieutenant, and he goes, "Bender." I snapped my head up. "Yes, sir." He goes, "When's the last time you talked to your mother?" I was like, "Oh, what happened, sir?" He goes, "She's given us all kinds of grief back in 29 Palms. She says she hasn't heard from you, hasn't talked to you, and wants to know if you're all right." And I'm like, "Oh, God." He goes, "You finish that damn chow right now, and you get up and you go in that phone booth and you sit there and make a call." And I get up to go, and he goes, "Nope, better yet." He goes, you go to the staff NCO hut. He goes, get their satellite phone. He goes, use that caller, you know. So here I am going up to a staff NCO hut. You know, I got staff sergeant, first sergeant, gunnery sergeant. Here I am, a PFC.
Yep.
I'm going up. Yeah, can I have the satellite phone? I got to call mommy, you know. So I was like, yeah, go ahead, give it to me. And a lot of these guys were pretty much cool with me anyway, the older guys, you know, because they knew I was older and everything by that time. So they're like, okay, yeah, make sure mommy tucks you in, yep, and all that good stuff, yeah. So needless to say, and I called my mom and was just like, Mom, I owe you big time for this. Yep.
All right. Now, over the course of the time that you're there, do you get, is there sort of any downtime to speak of, or a couple of days where you're not doing anything, or you're just on the move the whole time?
You get like maybe a couple hours, maybe a morning if you're lucky. In the 3 months that I was there, hardly any downtime.
Okay.
Yeah, it was, like I say, our battalion commander was always on the move, you know.
Okay. Now, before the incident where you got injured yourself and then had to leave, were there other particular things, memories that are going to stand out for you about the time that you spent there, other particular stories?
Well, I know before we ever went into Iraq, in Kuwait, I got my first introduction to the camel spider. I don't know if you've ever heard of the camel spider. They're almost transparent in nature. They're like, you can see through them almost. And they're really big. And they come up from the ground because they hide in the ground during the day because it's so hot, and then they come up at night to feed. Well, somebody had had an apple and not eaten the whole entire thing and left it out. And this is while we're outside of the Camp Victory, I think it is, in Kuwait. We're sitting outside of there. Our whole battalion got the vehicles all lined up, ready to roll. So this apple's sitting there, and I got a guy, his sleeping bag is right here. And I see this apple moving, and I was like, oh man, that's not good. You know, all of a sudden the apple flips over, and I mean, this huge spider comes out of the ground. It was just like the eeriest looking thing. I don't like, especially after this bite, you know, I don't like spiders, you know. So I see this thing crawling around, and I'm like, man, there's a big spider, and there's an empty sleeping bag. What do I do here? Threw that thing in the sleeping bag, right? Okay, and the guy comes back, and he goes to get into his bag, and I said, now, you checked your bag, right? Make sure you inspect it, no scorpions or nothing in it, right? He goes, whatever, you know, just thinking I'm messing with him, you know. He goes to open his sleeping bag, and I'm not kidding you, the spider was so big, it's literally moving around, and you can see it out through the top. He goes, what's in there? You know, he flips it open, his spider comes flying out. He goes, you son of a, you know. Yeah, that was a good time. And then there's some other times that probably aren't appropriate if there's going to be a kid's show or children are going to watch it. But there were some other times before I got injured that were pretty memorable, pretty funny. Didn't get a whole lot of those moments though, you know. That was the thing, you know, when those moments came, it was like they were magnified by 10, you know, because it was just like, gosh, haven't had a sense of, you know, just normalcy or anything just different, you know. It's just same thing every day, pounding and pounding and pounding, you know. And it was nice when those opportunities presented themselves.
Now, did your own squad or unit, did you take any casualties before the point when you got hit?
No, we did not. Our unit did, but as far as my squad, we didn't take anything at this point.
All right. Yeah. And you've got the same group of guys who were together the whole time. There's no one going in or out at that point.
Nope.
Right.
It's pretty much locked on. That's who we're dealing with. And we had two guys, Hall and Mendez. They joined up just before we pumped out to Iraq, but they were there with us throughout the whole entire time. Yeah.
All right. Now, you're not out there really all that long. During that time, did you have any sense of any kind of change in terms of what was going on generally in the situation, or was it pretty much the same the whole time?
Well, their tactics somewhat changed a little bit. They were a lot of times trying to get you into these little pops, you know, keep you in position, and then hit you with an RPG. Okay, just keep you there long enough for something else to come in, and then they started to do like stuff with like that with like mortars. That's what happened with me. Eventually, that's what happened. They keep you in that position long enough, and then they bring in the big stuff, you know. But then it was like they stopped all kinds of, you know, gunfire and just went strictly to roadside bombs or just, you know, any kind of explosives.
Right. Yeah. So, well, the trouble with direct fire is you can shoot back.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you kind of get maybe better at that, or because in the end, there's not that many really active insurgents necessarily. They're the ones who really go after you.
No, not a whole. You know, and the thing is, what a lot of people don't realize is, you know, some of these people aren't even insurgents. You know, they're farmers or people that live in these villages, and you know, they're basically told, unless you do this, we're going to kill your family, or we'll give you $500, and $500 for that person, or dinar, you know.
Yeah.
That money is great for them, so yeah, why not? You know, of course they're going to do that, and it's, you know, they're thinking maybe get away with it because they, you know, they hear it's going on all the time, you know. So, you know, that's what people, I don't think a lot of times understand is a lot of these people are put up to doing this over there, you know. Now, committing an act in this country, I'm pretty sure you could stop that because you're not under direct supervision of somebody, but over there, you know, they have no choice. And there's a huge gap between poverty and being wealthy, you know. So they're controlled, you know. And that was the really unfortunate thing is they're used as puppets, a lot of them, and then on top of that, they're not treated very well at all, you know. So it's just like they're getting the raw end of the deal both ways, and that's what everything that motivated me to help these people, you know, because I seen that they wanted to be able to dream and do things and be somebody else, like 3 Cups of Tea, Greg Mortensen, and, you know, learn, you know, and that's what we were trying to give them. That's what always inspired me and kept me motivated, you know.
Yeah, I mean, in the longer term, that was part of the underlying thinking for the whole surge approach and so forth, of simply providing essentially protection.
Right.
And saying, okay, those guys can't get you anymore, you can go get your lives back
Yeah.
again. And then that brings a certain chunk of them over to your side, and then that changes the whole equation. Now, you're over there before that part has gotten sorted out. So now explain kind of what then eventually happened to you.
Well, it was just a couple of days after we had done the Fallujah thing, May 1st, 2004. I won't ever forget it. You know, we were getting back to Alisad Air Force Base, and we were going to actually have one of those mornings, you know. But all of a sudden, Battalion Commander said we got intel that this police colonel in heat was informing insurgents of routes, vehicle identification, things like that. So we were going to go detain him and appoint somebody else to be in charge. So we quit what we were doing, stopped, did a real quick cleanup on the weapons again, you know, real fast, back out there. Get into heat, and this is probably 06, 07, sometime around there that we got into heat. The lieutenant commander, the sergeant major go in with the interpreter. I believe even maybe first sergeant might have showed up. I can't remember, because it was a pretty big deal, because we had, at the most point, thought we had a good working relationship with this police colonel, you know. So they were in there for tea. We were outside probably about around 1400. It was about 123, 124 degrees out. We took incoming sniper fire. Well, we radio it in, go inside and grab the lieutenant commander, you know, and it's tea time. can't break for T. Call in quick reaction force team, have them find the location of the sniper, you know, cord off the building, you know, that's it. 30 minutes later, all of a sudden, the whole ground is shaking, and I hear boom go off, you know, and oh man, it was a blast. It was, like I say, it was quite a blast, and I didn't know what kind of blast it was at first, because to me, I'm outboard security. Mind you, there's this building, and where I'm standing, the street's out here, and I've got these huge Texas barrier walls, okay? And I got little gaps in between them that I can just peek out every now and then and do a, you know, quick poke. That's it. And I got my vehicles lined up where there's like a dead end right here at the building. It's like nowhere for this vehicle to go but backwards. Okay? And the next way my vehicle can go is into this parking lot, through it out to another street. The rest of the building's gated and everything. So I didn't hear anything come in. So I'm like, where is this coming? I'm thinking to myself, somebody behind me just dropped a grenade and killed the lieutenant colonel. You know, I'm thinking he just got blown up inside the building, you know. So I'm trying to get my rifle up to the ready. And I look down, and my right arm is just like this. It's just cocked like that. So I'm like, oh man, that's not good. Well, I was quarterback in high school, so I had been hit with a helmet and had stingers before, you know. So I was like, oh man, this is a bad stinger. I can't even feel my arm, you know. I was like, this is bad, you know. So I'm trying to unsnap my 3-point sling and put the rifle up in my left hand. Well, all of a sudden my gunner behind me goes, Bender, he goes, you're hit, you're hit. I said, what do you mean I'm hit? He goes, you're bleeding bad, you know. So I'm like, what? So all of a sudden I turn and I looked down, and it was like there was a hose inside of my sleeve, and if somebody had turned the faucet up to like about middle to the full way, and it was just pouring out blood. So I'm like, whoa, that's not good. And by the amount of blood I saw, I'm thinking to myself, my arm's coming off. I'm thinking my arm's like hanging by a thread, because there's seriously this much blood coming out. I'm like, oh my gosh. So I quickly radio to my squad leader. I'm like, this is ODB, I'm hit, Ronan Actual, this is ODB, I'm hit, and like, we're taking incoming, you know, and little did I know that I didn't even hear it because my hearing was so blasted out. There was 2 other rounds that hit behind the one that impacted and hit me. I never even heard those other 2 rounds. But I came around the vehicle, and I'm still kind of calling up to my squad leader, and I'm still trying to get my darn 3-point sling going, you know. So finally, I get my sling, and all of a sudden I look up, and here's my squad leader. And I look up at him, and he like sees me, because I see him. He's like coming around the corner. He's got his eyes out, and all of a sudden he looks, and we make eye contact. And his eyes got like big as saucers. And that's when I said, uh-oh, this ain't good. You know, so right away I take a knee down behind the Humvee, and he's like, get your flak jacket off, get all this off, you know. And I'm like, no. It's like, we're exposed. I'm like, let's get inside this police station, you know. So one of the Marines and a sniper comes over, and they try to pick me up by my legs and do the old fireman chair carry, you know. I said, it's not my legs. It's like, it's my arm. I go, I can run. Let's go, you know. Let's get inside, you know. So we're running in, and there was 2 Iraqi police officers that were standing at the entrance of the parking lot. They were there, but no longer there, if you know what I mean. Almost hardly even identifiable. We walk over them, and another police officer is coming out towards us, and he's holding his eye, and I don't know what had happened, but his hand was covering, and his face was just covered, okay? So I'm like, get out of the way, you know. I'm thinking, I got to get the heck in here. What's going on? Where's the battalion commander? All this stuff's going through my head, you know. So I'm like, where's the battalion commander, you know? And finally, all of a sudden, I hear him. He's on the way. Ronan's on the way, you know. So they get me into this room. I said, let's you know, sniper's like, let's take this off. And he rips off my sleeve. And well, this private behind me, he goes, it's an 18-year-old kid. He goes, oh my God. I looked over at the sniper. Now, the sniper's like 20, 21, okay? So he's a little bit older. And I looked at him, I go, man, I don't want to hear something like that. I go, tell me, how bad is it, Langland? And he goes, Bender, he goes, they took a good part of your arm back here, and I have a tribal armband tattoo. I go, man, did they F up my tattoo? And he starts laughing. He goes, only you would think something like that right now. And by that time, the lieutenant colonel and the sergeant major got in there, and they were like, what's going on, you know? Like, I'm hit. We need to get out of here, you know? So,
has anyone done anything about the bleeding out of your arm yet?
That's when the sniper, he took my sleeve and made a field expedient tourniquet. Okay. Yep. Basically right there, just tied it off. But, yeah, I mean, it severed the brachial artery. And I was losing a lot of blood fast. Yeah, I knew that for a fact because I could feel it in my body system. Like I felt dehydrated almost instantly right away when I had just been hydrated like crazy because we drank water like crazy over there. So I was totally hydrated before the incident, and you're talking, this is all in a matter of minutes, and all of a sudden I'm dehydrated. I was like, this isn't good, you know. I was like, we need to get to the fob right now. And that's where Echo Company was, the ones that were seeing it. They were right outside of HIT because, like I say, HIT was a pretty busy town.
And so they had an aid station there of some kind? Or?
Well, they had corpsmen that were attached with them. Right. So what they did was, I mean, we come smoking in. First of all, they're like, we got to do a vehicle inspection. My squad leader's like, you better stand down. He's like, I got a Marine that's injured. We're coming through right now. Like, let us through, you know. So we just blew through the gate, you know, didn't check vehicles or weapons or nothing like that. So we blow through, go inside, and we go into this room in this building. It's all concrete floors. They got a little, like the old MASH gurney kind of like deal, you know. I thought Alan Alda was going to make us afraid. It's like, come on, meatball surgery, you know. No, but they set me up on this bed, you know, and at this point, my arm just starts feeling like it's burning. Not pain or throb, but burning. Like my arm feels like it's literally on fire. And I look over at this corpsman and I said, man, you got to do something about my arm. I go, that feels like I'm burning up right now. And he goes, oh, that's because your tourniquet's too tight. You're losing circulation. So he unties my tourniquet, and next thing you know, just blood starts splatting everywhere, you know. And he's like, oh, that's why. I'm like, yeah, you didn't see it, you know. So they get their gauze and everything, and they take the ball and they sponge it up, and they wrap it up, and finally get me some morphine, finally, you know. So I'm laying there, and my squad leader, we were always playing with each other, you know, and we played a couple of games of Risk, and I'd always get, have you ever played Risk? Okay. So whenever I'd beat him in a dice throw, you know, I'd say, get him out of there, and I'd put my guys in there, you know, and he comes in the door and he goes, get him out of there. So he knew at that point I was going home, but I wasn't ready to go home yet, you know. Like I say, we still had a 45-minute drive to Alisad Air Force Base where they could still do any type of corrective surgery to stop this bleeding, you know. So I wasn't even thinking about that, you know, at that moment, you know. But they tried to call in for a helo to transport me, but it was too hot of a zone because what we had just come from, and I'm like saying, Echo Company's 5 was right in that back door where we were. So we had to drive that whole way back, and that whole way back, I kept telling my sergeant major, I was like, Sergeant Major, I go, just put me up on that gun. I can lean into it with my left hand, my left shoulder pressure. I go, I can handle the 50 cal. Don't worry about it. He goes, gosh, damn it, Marine. He goes, you're done. He goes, don't you understand that? He goes, your only job now is to go home and get better, you know. So that was pretty funny, you know. But yeah, I even got on the corpsman. There was 2 corpsmen that were, because I had to keep my hand elevated, you know, to reduce the blood. Yeah. So one's holding my arm up, and the other one's behind him watching him hold my arm up. So he's essentially just sitting there watching him. Well, that's not what he was doing. In my mind, that's what he was doing, but really he was watching to see if there was blood coming out or anything like that. And in my mind, I'm thinking, you could be doing something else. There's a chair empty, and there's nobody looking out this porthole window, for any insurgents. So I'm like, you know what? You could be doing something else right now. You could be looking out that window. We're still in a combat zone. Blah blah. You know, I'm just going off like a Marine. And Lieutenant Colonel turns back, looks around, and goes, "Damn, that's a Marine right there." Yep. So that was pretty much the whole 45-minute ride back to Al Assad Air Force Base. And by the time I got there, like I say, I was about ready to be in the bag because I felt weak. I felt like I was going to pass out. They could see it instantly because the people. Well, it got radioed in that I was just hit with like a shot, like a through and through. So they're thinking, oh, it's no big deal. He's already got it wrapped. Nothing big. They see me step out of the vehicle and they're like putting out their cigarettes and scurrying around, you know. And they're like, we just thought it was a through and through, you know. And I'm like, yeah, it's definitely not that, you know.
Are you still walking at this point? Or?
Oh, yeah. Yep. I'm still walking. I walked the whole way through that hospital. She took me to one room, the woman that was in there, she took me to this one room, and it was already being used, and she's trying to open the door, and it's locked, and she's like, oh, somebody must be in there. And I go, you better find me someplace to lay down quick, because I'm about to pass out right here. She goes, oh, are you going to faint? And I was like, yeah. I'm going to faint. Yeah.
So does she find you a room?
She eventually finds me a room. She lays me down on this table. It's just like a table. And this nurse comes in and he's telling me, you know, what's going to happen. We're going to take a graft from your leg and put it in your arm. He's like, right now we've got to put you out because we've got to do it now. You know, and as he's telling me this, I'm starting to even like go out. So they were already doing it. I didn't even know, you know. So I'm just like starting to slowly pass out. And next thing I know, wake up in the cover room and there's my gunnery sergeant and my first sergeant sitting there right next to me in this room. It was like a all white room. Like maybe 8 beds in there, 4 on one side, 4 on this side, and I'm the only one in there. I'm like, am I dead? Are you taking me to heaven? Because I didn't picture you guys taking me to heaven, you know. And they're laughing because I'm all doped up on morphine, you know. So I'm just saying off the wall crazy stuff, and they're like, oh, Bender, you're gonna be all right, you know, and all this stuff. But yeah, I even then I was still telling them I can still do this and that. No, you gotta go get it taken care of, you know. So. No matter what, which they were right, I needed to go home and heal, you know, so I'm glad they didn't listen to me.
All right. So now what's the process? What happens to you?
Oh, wow. From there, I went to Baghdad. Baghdad, they kept me for 24 hours, and I was still really out of it, in and out of it at this point. They heloed me there, and I just remember seeing the roof of, or the ceiling of the helo and falling asleep again, coming to in Baghdad. And this was like a mass meatball surgery type place that I came to in, because immediately the guy sitting across from me, his face is just totally wrapped, and I can see the blood seeping through, but I can't see him, you know, and it's like, oh my God. And another guy is coding. So I hear them, they're calling for the cart over there and everything, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like, where am I, you know? And instantly, I feel this pain right down here, you know, where because they took a big chunk of my vein out, you know. So I feel this pain down here. Well, immediately I sit up, because I've heard horror stories about getting charts mixed up or whatever, and I was feeling a pain close to a region that I didn't want anything messed with. So I'm like feeling down there, and I'm like, okay, everything that's supposed to be here is still here. Good, good. And the nurse comes over. She's like, I know what you were just doing. She's like, I saw your face. She's like, you're okay, hon. We got it taken care of, you know. At that moment, I got sick. And I was like, you better get me a bedpan, you know. And it was just all too much for me at that point, you know. What was really cool is when I was in there, I think it was a captain in the Navy that was part of the med unit there, came to me and he hands me a satellite phone. He goes, here, he goes, I want to do something for you. He goes, call your parents. Tell them you're okay. Tell them you're going to be fine. Don't go into too much detail. He goes, because the Marine Corps is going to screw this up and they're going to have your parents believing you're dead tomorrow. He goes, so make the phone call. It was like, wow. Did you talk to my second lieutenant? So, yeah, I got to call Mom, and right away I'm like, Mom? And she's like, yeah. I'm like, I got something to tell you. And immediately she starts crying. You know? I'm like, Mom, put Dad on the phone. I don't have time for all this. I go, I've only got a little window here of time. I was like, put Dad on the phone, you know. So then I told my dad, I'm like, Dad, I go, well, I got injured, you know. And he goes, how bad is it, you know? And I go, well, let's just say I'm not going to be throwing a football around for a while with my right arm. He goes, okay. Well, we'll see when you get home, you know. So I told him that I'd be all right, you know, and everything was fine. And then from Baghdad, I flew to Germany, Ramstein. And that's where I got to meet the Governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yeah, because they told him that there was a Marine from California there. So he was in the area. I think he was doing his peace talks in Israel at the time, if I remember correctly. And yeah, I had a Marine in here from California, you know. So he came in, and probably about 5 minutes he was gone. I kidded with him because then again I was all doped up on morphine, so I was having fun with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he's a big guy. Holy cow! But then the Charlie Daniels band came in. They were cool. They were so cool. Charlie Daniels himself, he would go by himself individually to each bed, and the band members would go in front of him, and they would say hi and talk to you and everything. But then Charlie would come and talk to you. I mean, by the time he got to me, you could see he was crying, had tears in his eyes. I mean, that true patriotism, man. I was like, wow. He even had me starting to get, you know, I was like, geez, Charlie.
Yeah. That'll be cheering you up.
Yeah. Right? No, but they were great. I mean, gave a bandana, signed picture, you know. I mean, hung out. He had to have been, the whole band and him had to be in there for at least about 35, 40 minutes, you know. So that was really cool. Yeah, that was pretty neat.
How long did you wind up spending in Germany?
I was there for 3 days. 3 days, and then I flew on a C-130 or, yeah, I think it was a C-130 or a 330, I can't remember which, with the Air Force all the way back to, I think it was Walter Reed or Bethesda. I think it might have been Bethesda.
Because it's Naval Hospital there, yeah.
Yep. I went to Bethesda and then Walter Reed. And then from there, it's Bethesda one night, Walter Reed one night, and then all the way over to California to the Naval Hospital, Balboa in San Diego there. So, and then I spent, in Balboa, I spent about a month. That's where they had to basically, because this wound was all open. I don't know, you want to see it?
I don't. How presentable is it? I guess if it's not bleeding, then
No. It kind of looks like turkey skin though. So hopefully none of the people ever that watch this will be hungry or something.
Well, you know, you've now given them advance warning.
Right? They have an opportunity to turn away.
Yeah.
So that's it right there. And you can see like the little checkerboard marks?
Yeah, it really
Okay.
does look like turkey skin. I'll give you that.
So, but what they did was, because this was all open, I mean, in Germany, I wish I had this nurse's name and email, and I lost it. But she took a picture with me holding my arm up like this, and there in my head, and you could see my bone all the way in through there, and the tendons and everything else. You couldn't see any of the nerves because they were already recoiled back to wherever, because they're like a rubber band. They stretch and then they pull up, and I lost 14 centimeters of my median nerve and 14 and a half centimeters of my ulnar nerve, and I think 13 and a half centimeters of my brachial artery excuse me, was severed. So it was a pretty extensive wound.
Do they leave it open because ultimately they want to repair it from the inside out?
No. Part of it was that, but then also part of it was because they wanted it to heal as much as it would on its own. They wanted it to close as much as it would on its own because it was such a large, I mean, it almost looked like my bicep burst, so to speak, you know, if I could paint an image for you of what it looked like. You know, it wasn't like a nice incision and just gently opened. It was open in like a hand shape, almost kind of like deal.
Because in Vietnam, they had often left them open, but part of that was to prevent infection. They didn't want to seal anything in it.
Okay.
But now you're in places where that's going to be cleaner, so there's other things
right.
going on.
Yep. Yeah, they were really great, and they knew what they were doing. You know, the only thing I ever questioned was, you know, because they did a nerve graft. After I had my skin graft, they took skin from my thigh and they put it in place where the old skin was. You know, that's the skin you see now. So I got leg hair on my arm. So I don't think I can claim that for VA disability, but you know. But after they did that, they did a nerve graft, and they took nerves from both of my legs, from about middle of the calf down to the outside of each foot, and they took that nerve and they re-sewed it in, or grafted it in with the existing nerve, in hopes that the connection would be made again with the hand, and it never did, you know. But I always wondered why they waited, because it was like 6 months before I had that surgery. It seemed to me like, as I was open, we should have just done that right then at the time, you know. But, you know, hindsight's 20/20, they say, you know, and I'm pretty sure, I know that all the doctors there at the Naval Unit were just tremendously awesome, and I was one of the first cases that they had seen something like this before, and that's due to the good armor that we have, though, now, you know, where a lot of guys would be dead in my situation, probably. They just lose a limb, and unfortunately, that's what we're dealing with now more with our veterans than we are with them dying. They're coming back, and they're dismembered and things of that nature.
And the head injuries.
And the head injuries.
The shock of things.
Yeah, and the invisible injuries like PTSD, yeah.
All right. Now, at this point, because of what's happened to your arm, I mean, presumably you can't be a Marine anymore, at least not officially.
Exactly, yep. And I pretty much saw that. I knew that was probably going to come to a head. It was something that was really, I was dealing with from the get-go, was how am I going to still stay as a Marine, you know, because they preach to you all the way up. We don't want any weak bodies. We don't want anybody that can't do this and can't do that, you know. And that's where my mentality went too. I was like, for a while, I was like, I don't deserve to be a Marine, you know. It was tough. It was really tough. Yeah. And eventually, that's why I ended up getting out, because I wasn't medically unfit to perform.
Okay. And so at that point, you just go back home?
Yeah. I just basically, that's a funny story. Oh man, you're gonna love this one. So, going back home, I was in the hospital for a checkup, and something was going on with my nerves when they checked my arm, so they admitted me. And this is about the end of September. So it's coming up the second payday period, you know, end of the month payday, okay? So I go down to the ATM, and I think it was like October 1st or something like that. None of my money got put in my account. I'm like, what's going on, you know? So I called Pacific Marine Credit Union, what's going on, you know? And they're like, well, it shows here that you're not a Marine anymore.
Oh.
I said, well, what am I doing here in a naval hospital as a Marine, you know? And she's like, yeah, your separation came in, you know, your medical retirement.
Yeah.
So I was like, you're kidding me. I'm like, so what happens now? I'm like, well, you need to get back to the base. I'm like, well, somebody better send me from my unit. She's like, well, you're not a Marine. They can't send you a Marine to pick you up. I said, oh, no. Yes, they can. I hung up with her, and I called my duty station. And I'm like, get Staff Sergeant so-and-so on the phone right now, you know. And he's like, what's going on? I'm like, they got me out here and they're telling me I'm not a Marine anymore and that I got to find my own way back to base. Oh, heck no. He's like, we'll have you picked up in about 3 hours, you know, because it was about a 3-hour drive to San Diego, you know. So I got back that night. Sure enough, went to IPAC the next morning. They told me I was no longer in there. I had my separation orders came in. I was out processed. I was like, well, how did I do that when I didn't sign any paperwork to do the out processing? I'm like, I've been in the hospital, you know? So they're like, worked it out where they did pay me and gave me some, but it was the weekend was coming up. And my Master Sergeant Leonard comes up to me, and he liked me too, you know? And he goes, man, he goes, Benner, he goes, don't leave. He goes, we're going to have a ceremony for you. We're going to do this right. And he goes, we're going to give you a plaque and everything like that. I said, Master Sergeant, I'm a free man, and you want me to wait over the weekend here for Monday, work day, and come back to work? Like, have a good life, Master Sergeant. Take care of yourself. And away I went. Yep, that weekend I packed up and I was gone. I think Sunday morning. I had a Chevy Malibu. I packed it up with everything that I had, and on my way back to Michigan I went, with a few stops in between, but I made it back to the state of Michigan.
But you're kind of driving left-handed now.
Yep, driving left-handed, riding left-handed, playing sports left-handed, playing golf left-handed. It was, that's basically when my actual rehabilitation, I think, began, because in the Marine Corps, I just sat around. I worked in the mailroom, I worked in the armory, wasn't really doing a whole lot. Went out, tried to play golf once, and my golf game was just horrible, you know. And I didn't want to deal with it, you know. I just gave up. But when I came back to Michigan, you know, I went downhill for a little bit for a while, you know. I got a little bit pity party, I guess, so to speak, and realized this isn't what I want to be and who I want to be, so I better pull myself out of this rut, you know. So I started golfing again, started fishing again, started doing all the things that I used to like to do, and just worked at overcoming.
And at what point do you start looking for work?
Well, that was the thing, you know, going into the Marine Corps. I'd always done stuff with my hands and didn't really have that much of an education, you know. I'm high school diploma, that was it. But I knew I was going to go back to school. I knew even when I was in the Marine Corps, I wanted to go back to school, you know. So what I did when I got out, I did make sure that I initially enrolled at Lake Michigan Community College again to finish up what I had started.
Right.
Of course, I went back, and it's amazing. You know, the older, I don't think you're supposed to do better than when you were younger, but apparently you do, you know. Maybe some of that Marine Corps mentality hit there, but
Well, you knew why you were there this time.
yeah, that's right. You're absolutely right. Yeah, I wanted to, you know, help veterans. So I had a goal. I had a purpose, you know. So like I say, I went back and raised my GPA from a 2-point to a 3-point, and made the dean's list a couple of times, which I never did that the first time out of high school, you know. And so I was pretty proud of myself for doing that. Got my associates in communications, and then went to Grand Valley State University and majored in public administration, because at the time I was told that that's what you needed to have, or was a requirement to become a veteran services counselor. So I was rejected one time because I didn't have that bachelor's yet, and I made sure that they would never be able to keep that against me, hold that against me again, you know. So
Okay. And so is that what you're doing now?
that is what I'm doing now. Yep, I see veterans on a regular basis. I work for the County of Allegan. We're there 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, and I see all sorts. I see Vietnam, World War II, Korean War. A lot more Vietnam.
Yeah.
Because of the whole Agent Orange and the presumptives that are associated with the toxin, you know, Agent Orange. But I'm starting to see a lot of young guys coming through there. And I think that's what, you know, in a way they help me too, because talking about my experiences, like doing something like this with you, it helps me deal with those demons, the things that, you know, and I even tell my coworker all the time that I think your mind is it's a defense mechanism in itself, because a lot of the bad, awful bad things that happened while I was in Iraq, it's almost far and forgotten. I can't even, until I have that incident where I'm at night and I'm sleeping and it comes to me, you know. It's like that's when the mind is vulnerable or something, you know. It's taking a break, so it allows those intrusive thoughts and memories to come back. But yeah, I get a kick out of helping veterans now, because when I got out, I didn't know anything about it. You know, I didn't know what benefits were available to me. I just knew, you know, they do the TAPS program, the Transition Assistance Program, but you know, that's just a minor scale of things. You know, there's so many different things that you're up for. Even when I got my disability rating from the Marine Corps, I really didn't even understand what that fully was about, you know. And then when I started dealing with my own thing and just trying to learn it from a layman's terms type deal, it was kind of confusing, because some of the rhetoric in there is kind of back and forth, and you're just like, well, is it or isn't it? You know, is it just up to judgment at this point, or who makes the decision on this, you know, for eligibility purposes and things of that nature, you know? So I said, you know, this is going to be something that these veterans are going to need, because this is a long war. I mean, we're going to have, in 30 years from now, think of all the veterans that we're going to have that are going to be, for us, like Vietnam or Korean War veterans, you know, and they're all going to be a dying breed, but they're going to be walking out because they need their benefits now, you know, where they're young and they're healthy and they get out, they don't need their benefits now, but then they're going to want their pensions when they're 65.
Right.
And then who's going to be there to do that work? Unless somebody actually gets in there, because if you look now, it's scary. I went to a conference, the Michigan conference, and granted, it's starting to look mixed in there. It's still on the higher end of senior counselors, you know, and they're in their senior years, you know. But I mean, it's great that they're there, because they're a wealth and a great resource. I mean, it's a very friendly community that I work in, you know.
And they would know a lot of the ins and outs of the system.
Exactly. They've worked through the red tape, and they've seen, and they know the loopholes and who to call and who not to call and all that. So it's great, because in the state of Michigan, I just think we're a special people. I think we're a special breed. I like to hold on to that perception of the state. I don't know if it's a nostalgic thought, but the thing is like, you know, a lot of the people that I grew up with and I know and everything, we were raised with good family morals, good background. You know, you open the door for somebody, you say thank you, you say please, you do that. You know, when I went out west and I went out east and all over, I don't get that all the time, you know. And it's like this state, you get that, and you can just go up to somebody and start talking to somebody, have a friendly conversation with, I ain't got time for you, or I'm going to beep on my phone, or what's up, I got a text, you know. It's the type of people, and especially the older segment of the population is, you know, because maybe that's because that's what they were brought up in more so than us, you know. It's, you see that change, but it's a great resource, because like I say, I go to these conventions, I go to these meetings, and I talk to these people. They're like, oh yeah, call me anytime you have a problem, you know. And it's like you say, a lot of them are veterans themselves, or a lot of them are married to veterans, or somewhat, and they're all trying to give back and do their part, you know. And for whatever purpose that is, it's a great thing that I think we're doing, you know, because eventually this is going to be a huge influx again.
It'll follow us for a long time. I mean, I see quite a few student veterans at Grand Valley now, and in some cases, I think they've been pretty good about sort of getting whatever kind of support they've needed. In a lot of cases, they don't necessarily, too.
Right.
I will bring Vietnam veterans into classes, and some of those guys, they can look out at a class and they know who the vets are, especially the ones who've been anywhere.
Right.
And in some cases, you know, they'll take them aside afterward and say, you kind of need to get some help. But some of them do and some of them don't. And I see them having a variety of issues and stuff. And having talked to people who were in World War II and Korea and Vietnam, I know that it can take years or decades sometimes before they sort some of this stuff out. So we're going to need people like you for a while.
Yes.
Now, in the meantime, do you think it helps if a younger veteran walks in and they see somebody under the age of 40 there to talk to?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But then again, sometimes it all depends. you get female veterans in there, you know, and they had some issues with male service members.
Right.
So they want a female counselor, you know, or sometimes guys don't want to talk to a woman because right away, instantly, they don't think of them as being able to serve, so they want to talk to a guy.
Yeah.
And then there's other ones that if you were never a veteran, they don't even want to talk to you, period, because you don't understand what the hell I'm going through, you know. I get a lot of that, you know. I think the key is you try to be approachable, and I've always been that type of person in my life that's approachable, that's got a upbeat sense to them, smile, try to at least most of the time, you know, polite, respectful. Those things help when you're doing something where you're counseling somebody and you're trying to get them to open up to you. And it doesn't hurt to also walk in their shoes a little bit and know where they're coming from, you know. I tell a lot of guys, I've sat in the office and cried with veterans that were in there with me, you know, and I've had veterans get up, Vietnam veterans, I've had Vietnam veterans get up from their chair and say, I've been seeing a psychologist or a psychiatrist for 3 years, and I think you've helped me more in the 30 minutes that I've seen you than they've helped me at all. And that's all it is, you know. They just want to be able to talk and express themselves, you know. And it's like, I don't know if you've ever heard of the buddy-to-buddy program, where they go and get a senior veteran or somebody and they mix them, you know, with a Vietnam and a Persian Gulf or an OIF guy. Those programs are awesome. Those are powerful because they know that they're not alone, not the only one dealing with these issues. And when they're sitting, I mean, the suicide rate for veterans is skyrocketing. If people aren't paying attention, they need to, because there's something seriously bad going on out there with these veterans. You know, I just saw a video of it the other day. I think it's like 1 out of every 4 is killing themselves, you know? And it helps to have a community behind you, you know. I think that's very vital part of being rehabilitated, is to having that support group, and especially somebody that knows what you're talking about, you know. For me, even sometimes to go to the VA and sit there and talk to a psychiatrist or a psychologist that isn't a veteran and has told me openly he's not a veteran, I do. I automatically go there to saying, well, what do you know? You know, what do you really know? You know, I respect that piece of paper on the wall that says you went and studied all this, but you know what? I was trained for over 9 months or 6 months, and when I went to Iraq, I was introduced to stuff that I really wasn't that trained for. It's totally different when it's real and it's live and it's happening now, you know. It's no more training, you know, and that's, you know, so, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, in a way, basically a project like this one, part of the point is to go some distance toward bridging the gap, and in the end, it's all it can do.
Yes.
But opening communications and just, you know, letting people talk and having it be okay is a big deal.
That's it.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's what veterans want to do. That's why when I was so eager to be able to do this, and I hope, like, I want the message to be to tell these guys, you know, go out there and talk to people. Go out there and talk to your counselor, you know, a veterans counselor in any county, you know, whether it be in the state of Michigan or any state, you know. Talk to somebody, because they can get you the help that you need. They can get you the resources that you need. Like with me, it's not just about VA benefits. We have the Michigan Veterans Trust Fund and the Veterans Relief Fund. Well, these things are for indigent veterans. As long as they have wartime service and an honorable discharge, they could be eligible for this stuff.
Yeah.
And they can get assistance and keep their house from being foreclosed on, or having their electricity shut off because they're an arrearages for electrical bills, you know. We can help them with those things, and these guys don't know this stuff because nobody tells them, you know. Yeah,
well, you've got your work cut out for you.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yeah, but you know what? Love it. I really don't know if I could be doing anything else, you know. Yeah, I think my wife, my kids, my family, and God, I love them all to death, and then close right with them are my veterans. They're special. They hold a special place with me. And that's just like I say, because I know every aspect of what they've been through. I've been in combat, and I've combated with the VA into getting my benefits, you know. So, you know, it sucks when you put your life on the line for somebody, and then you come back and you find out you have to go through all this hell just for something that was promised to you when you signed up to do something, you know. And these guys have been doing it for years. They've been fighting the VA for years. And that hits hard, you know. I really, man, I just feel for these guys, you know. And then when I finally see them to get that letter and it says, you are granted this and we're going to retroactive back to this date and you're getting this amount of money, and you hear them come back and they say, you know what, before I came to this office, I didn't have a reason to live anymore. He goes, but thank you, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. That makes all the days when the veteran calls and says, I've been calling you for 6 weeks and nobody's called me back.
Right.
Takes all those away.
All right. Well, I'll tell you, it makes for one heck of a story. So I'd just like to thank you for coming in and sharing it today.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Before we cut off, though, one more thing. You did bring a souvenir along with you.
Yes, I did.
Wanna
Yes. Yes, I
show us
did.
from your memory of your time in Iraq.
Yep.
That shows up pretty clearly there. And
That there's the blood from, that's me right there.
that's just what kind of poured out of the sleeve.
Yep. Pan it around.
And your wife lets you keep those.
I hide them.
Ah.
Yeah, I hide them. She
Yeah.
doesn't, well, she knows I have these somewhere, but she doesn't like looking at them.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you.